All right, folks, it is November 18th, 2025, and the title of tonight's live show is XRP Wall Street Unleashed. Now, we've been talking about the suits are going to be selling it with slideshow presentations, wrapping it up in 589 different products, going long, going short, 2x, 3x, premium income. We broke the Amplify ETF that went live today down in my earlier video. We also dropped an update this morning, first thing, talking about XRP price appreciation incoming, just referencing historical data and remaining extremely conservative to remind folks that we have a heck of an opportunity, even in the worst case scenario, with XRP adoption and the timeline that we're in. Although it's been delayed and we were expecting to be much further along with XRP, the fundamentals have not changed, and so our conviction has actually grown over this year, despite price action going down. And the reason is because we're now beginning to realize just how much we're going to see in inflows from all of these products that are going live from Wall Street. So for tonight's episode, I titled it XRP Wall Street Unleashed. We're going to be talking about that, breaking it down. I'm actually tracking and tracing some of the XRP wallet activity, because to me, the big $10 trillion question is, will Ripple allow a supply shock to happen? And I believe that the answer to that question is yes. It's just a matter of timing. Many of us thought that we were going to see that supply shock and XRP up to 589 or $1,000. We thought that we were going to get much higher prices back in 2020. But now, with an understanding that everything's been delayed for almost 5 years of an SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, here we are at the end of 2025. Market structure was supposed to pass this year. Now they're talking about they might not get it done. And don't get me started on the DC dance. I was watching some of that childish tirade taking place, the DC dance as I call it today. And we could talk briefly on that here in today's update. But I do want to give a quick shout out to the Good Evening Crypto community. Abs, Johnny, really appreciate what they're doing over there. I love the idea of them running that Good Evening Crypto show at the 6 p.m. my time, the 9 Eastern slot. And then you got me slotted in here at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. We do this every Tuesday, Thursday. I don't know if Good Evening Crypto goes live every day or what their schedule is, but I like that we got the back-to-back late night shows, just like you'd see on ABC, NBC, the big networks. And this is for the XRP family. And I was watching the show there. They were interviewing Jake Claver, and it was a very good interview and conversation. And just the energy of the XRP family always inspires me and gets me excited. So that is why we are running late tonight. I wanted to give them an opportunity to wrap up that show, carry it on into tonight's update, and break it down and give you guys the analysis that you have come to appreciate so much. So quick disclaimers before we get started. I want to say, despite the fact that I have Larry Fink in today's thumbnail, I do want to note, just in case BlackRock is listening, that yes, we're aware you have not officially filed for your XRP spot ETF yet. We just are very excited to see what you might have in store for us. So I wanted to put out that disclaimer. Larry Fink, it's such a great picture that I have of him, with the thumb, with the holding his hand up there. And so we had to include Larry Fink and BlackRock because we're watching all of these Wall Street players now have their attention on XRP. There's no way to miss it at this point. And what we saw at Ripple Swell, the institutional veil was lifted. If you don't have a crypto plan, program, and strategy, you're behind now. It's not a matter of getting off of 0, going to 1 to 5% allocation. You need to fundamentally integrate this technology into your business, along with AI and some of the other cutting edge technologies, or you will be left behind. So this is what we're now seeing happen in real time. And then I also want to put out one more disclaimer too, guys. I see, people have made some comments here lately, and they compare me to this or that statement or influencer or this or that. I just want to remind everybody that I'm completely independent. I finally just got my first sponsor last month, basically, with I Trust Capital. Up until now, I'd been running just off of YouTube revenue, my private community. We have some XRP family merch. And then when you guys use our affiliate links, that does support the channel as well. I Trust Capital is the only sponsor I have, and we took them on because I really believe in their product. I really want to make sure that folks can get their retirement accounts into crypto investments. And so I was willing to cut that deal. But up until now and going forward, right, I am completely independent, funded, and supported by you guys. If you guys didn't appreciate our content, we wouldn't have the lights on here and running a show here, dropping content on a daily basis. So I just want to say that I can't spend my time, verifying, denying, endorsing, supporting, denouncing some of the claims that are put out there by other influencers, organizations, the crypto tabloids, fake news. You know how it goes out here. So I just share my analysis. This is my platform. It's completely independent, and I've kept it that way because I know that we have so much trust between each other. So I just want to say thank you as we get started here tonight for all of your support, whether you're liking the stream, sharing it out far and wide, using our community resources in our private community. We couldn't do it without you, and thank you very much for supporting our cause. Let's run it up. There's so much good bullish activity taking place right now for the XRP family, folks. We've seen an 18% pullback, right? 18% pullback after our XRP ETF has gone live. Went live at $2.58, or at least that's where we peaked out 3 days before we went live on November 13th with the Canary XRP ETF. And from that peak that we hit, pulling back here 18%, has a lot of people scared, but we're noting that we're still holding up our $2 support and that everybody was front running my buy order at $2.08 at 210. And so I just missed adding to my XRP long. And this is a XRP long that, I've amassed just by buying and selling. I didn't go short XRP. I didn't short Bitcoin even, just simply dollar cost averaging into an XRP long, at times taking profit, taking my chips off the table, but then coming back to the casino the next day or a couple days later. And that's what I've been doing, dollar cost averaging from 340 now down to 228. And if I was able to get that order in at 208, we would have lowered that average even further. And that's just one part of our strategy, very small part of my strategy, because obviously I hold 100% of my XRP without leverage in cold storage and institutional grade custody. I take a little bit of money to the casino, Coinbase futures, XRP memes, flip in a couple bags here and there. But we want to stay active in this game. And there's so much opportunity in front of us that, I'll be the first to admit that we do miss a couple plays here and there, right? I'm not the low cap gem finder, but if we do make a move, I like to let you guys know. And unfortunately, the problem with putting out when you're going to be buying is I feel like a lot of people front run me when I say that I'm going to be buying XRP at 208 and we perfectly wick down to 210. But we did have an order block sitting there, and that's what smart money does, is try to place themselves right in front or right on that order block. And XRP support's holding up really well. Like I said, 18% pullback. You saw a 20% pullback for Bitcoin after its ETF, 40% for Ethereum. And I think that we ran down 38%, maybe a little bit more, for Solana after its ETFs have gone live. But the inflows are here. Wall Street has been unleashed. And don't think for a second that we should be bearish. It's okay to be frustrated, just like we tell our children. It's okay to be frustrated. It's not okay to be mean. In the case of XRP, it's okay to be frustrated, but it's not okay to capitulate. It's not okay to sell. Even though I don't give financial advice, that's just how I feel. Now, on this Friday, November 21st, we will be celebrating Gary Gensler Resign Day. Huge shout out to Michael Arrington. He says he's ready to celebrate this Friday. I thought that was a good note to start the show on. Gary Gensler is gone, stepped aside before Trump was about to fire his butt. Moving on over, Japan's 30-year bond jumps to 3.3% for the first time in history. If you look at their 20-year bond, it's up over 2.7%, I believe. And then the 10-year also went up to 1.7% as well. So that is spiking like a meme coin. The yield's going up. And we're also seeing that they announced a big stimulus package as well. It's pretty incredible, actually, when you look across all of the stimulus measures that are about to be taken. It's pretty substantial, and it's absolutely going to lead to price inflation on asset prices. And we need to be prepared for that. Kabesi letter with the summary. U.S. is preparing $2,000 stimulus checks. Japan is preparing $110 billion stimulus package. China, $1.4 trillion. Fed ending QT December 1st. getting ready to go to quantitative easing, make that money printer go burr. The U.S. House is issuing $1.9 trillion in treasuries per year. Where are the buyers going to come from? Good thing they got stablecoin legislation passed. That'll help pad that issue. Plug that hole. Canada is restarting its QE program. God bless the Canadians. We're praying for you. All the Canadians in the chat. Global M2 money supply is at a record through 137 trillion, with global rate cuts at 320 rate cuts from central banks across the world in the past 2 years. In what world is another wave of inflation not on the way? I hope you are positioned. Dave Portnoy getting himself in position. And you absolutely love to see it. Bitcoin news and the Bitcoiners, they can't wrap their mind around why Davey Portnoy would allocate more money to XRP than Bitcoin. Love to see it. Now, once again, Dave, he's his own character, and so I can't, support, endorse, or, I make no statements or claims against anything else. I see Dave, and this is just a stupid side comment. Every day I see Dave commenting about Fox News is mistreating him, or this is some drama. It's always some drama with Barstool Sports. And I'm like, I guess this is why the tabloids sell, right? The People magazine, all the gossip, right? And it's like, nothing but respect for what Dave has built with his Barstool platform. But every day I see it, what he's sharing, and I'm like, bro, in what reality would that be important to me? Dave is getting it's just funny to me. But the best part about this is he's buying more XRP than he's buying Bitcoin, and the Bitcoiners can't wrap their mind around it. He adds $750,000 of Bitcoin to his holdings, but he also added $1 million worth of XRP. Will he ever learn? Yeah, he has learned, and that's why he's doing it again. Not only did he already make a big allocation to XRP, he's now buying more. This is what we do. Once you realize where the ROI's at, where real utility's at, no doubt about it. Even Dom, Trader View from the technical standpoint, incredible strength over here the last few days. Bitcoin fell $15,000 and XRP held a local low from November 5th. This altcoin divergence has signaled reversals countless times in this cycle. And over the last 3 months, anytime we saw a bid skew like we have now, it preceded at least a 10% move up. And so what we're watching is full capitulation in the rest of the crypto space, diamond hands and folks like Dave adding to positions. Folks like myself almost added to my position. You guys front ran me. Can anybody in the chat let me know, did you pick up at 210? Can anybody in the chat let me know, were you one of the ones that front ran me at $2.10 and got your order in? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. That's okay though, because this is about new people coming in, being able to get exposure, be grateful, be thankful for the opportunity to pick up XRP below its fundamental value. Whether you got into XRP at $3 or you're buying in right now, we're still well below that fundamental value. And I am living proof that you can dollar cost average in over the course of this year. Well, really just since July, which would be about a four month period. I've dollar cost averaged in on my XRP long from 340 down to 228. So if I can do it without any sort of sophistication to my trading platform, I don't use 100 different indicators and live in the charts every single day. I call my TA doofus moron TA. Okay. But I still managed to dollar cost average in, buying, selling, taking my chips off the table. Let's get back in from 340 down to 228. And that's how you play this game. As we get ready for, like I said in my update first thing this morning, price appreciation on XRP of 100 to 300%, imminent price action for 100 to 300% for XRP. That's going to $5 all the way up to about $8 in very short order. We have to clear out the sell wall between $5 and $10 before we can clear our path to double digits. So we just have to do it. I know firsthand there's just a lot of people looking to take profit at those levels. So we get them out of the way, our path will be clear, and the inflows are going to be continuous for the next 12 to 24 months, really setting in that new reality, that new floor price for XRP. And I just wouldn't want to be left behind, that's for sure, especially considering all of the catalyst, but then also the features, the DeFi that is coming to the XRP ledger. This is where I get really excited because we won't have to sell. Whether or not Trump removes capital gains tax won't matter if we have great DeFi products, whether that be even centralized platforms that are going to provide us yield. And I broke down the Amplify monthly, 3% monthly income ETF. They're shooting for 3% monthly, 3% on a monthly basis, 36% annually. And we broke that down in my second video here today. That's a centralized offering from Wall Street in the suits to earn 3% on your holdings, right? Which is getting a portion of that towards XRP, and then they're leveraging it with XRP futures and options. And so that's how they're going to generate the returns. Will they actually get it done? I don't know. We'll see. But that's why you guys come to me, because we're tracking all of these platforms, the good, the bad, the ugly. Hey, they're making 3 to 5% on our XRP. Hey, they're losing our XRP, and everything in between. Centralized platforms, DeFi platforms. What are the risks? Where's the yield coming from? And is our XRP being kept secure? But what we saw come out today shows the shift in really the openness of Ripple, their engineers, and even David Schwartz, one of 3 creators of the XRP ledger, towards smart contracts and additional features, smart contract-like features being brought to the XRP ledger, including even staking. So David puts out this tweet here today. XRP ledger was created in 2012. The world of blockchain has changed many, many times over since then. My own thoughts on governance and consensus models have evolved. I'm just checking comments real quick here, making sure the stream's going through good. If everybody could do me a big favor and like the stream, help us out by sharing it out far and wide, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you. So David says, my own thoughts on governance and consensus models have evolved. I've been mulling over how XRP is used in DeFi, both organically with apps and protocols like Flare, More Markets, Axelar, Doppler, etc., and natively on-chain. With programmability initiatives and smart contract discussions underway, it seemed like a good time for us to also discuss what other DeFi capabilities natively could look like. And this is a thread here from the head of engineering at Ripple X, Jay Ayo, and he puts together a nice thread here talking about some of the ways that staking would be possible on the XRP ledger. Okay. And he talks about using fees as a source for staking rewards and a way for us to be able to distribute them fairly as one potential way to add staking to the XRP ledger. Right now, the fees are burned and that XRP goes away. If we introduce, change it to where those fees actually go to validators for staking, this could open up some new possibilities. I'm going to also share Brad's comment real quick here before I share my comment. Brad says, with new DeFi protocols and apps emerging for XRP, what other possibilities for the network should be discussed? Ripple engineer leader, that was Jay Ayo, tackles this and questions that need to be considered at the outset. As we have this conversation, it's so important that we don't lose what differentiated the XRP ledger, which was the most lean, mean, and efficient ledger for payments and liquidity. We don't want to ruin that. Okay. We haven't seen institutions at scale come on the XRP ledger, not because we don't have smart contracts. Okay. That's a big, big myth that is shared by some in the community. We could obviously add smart contracts, and they probably would bring more institutions today, but the big hurdle has been regulations. With regulations intact, everything opens up. Here I'm about to show you how many issuers for the ETFs updated on August 22nd, the same day that we get the mandate from the judge certifying that both parties had dropped their appeal. This is the mandate. See that? Big red letters, mandate. See, we actually print out the documents and read them. And at the bottom, this mandate was issued August 22nd, 2025. Now, I'm going to show you later here. On that same day, 6 of the ETF issuers updated their S1s for their XRP ETFs. Noting the point being that as soon as this case wrapped up, Wall Street was preparing to sell it. And this is what people don't get because they're focused on price action, not realizing what's taking place, the undercurrent, the tailwinds. They might not be picking up and registering right now, but they're definitely coming. And so when it comes to smart contracts on the XRP ledger, we need it. We need programmability, okay? But we need to make sure that we don't lose what differentiated the XRP ledger. And I really trust it. This is not just relying upon Ripple too. This is a decentralized ledger. Ripple just has big money, a lot of developers and engineers that they can deploy on this. So, and obviously they have the biggest incentive to protect the XRP ledger and make sure that it's running great. But I think that the big hurdle has been regulations, and this is what I asked David Schwartz directly at Ripple Swell Conference. Got the chance to finally meet David. One question, what am I going to ask him? Is the XRP ledger ready for institutions? Or, and I said, do we need more amendments? Or do we need regulations? Or is it a combination of both? And he went on to say that we are ready for institutions today. For most of the simple functions and features and things that institutions are looking to do, we're ready. Smart contracts or additional programmability and amendments will just expand our ecosystem and open up DeFi. But we also do need regulations to be passed because up on stage, you had all the banks and institutions in the room, the biggest asset managers in the world like Fidelity and BlackRock, and they all said the same thing. We've been researching this space for decades. We've been working on this, but until we get that Clarity Act market structure bill signed, we can't move. We can run our proof of concepts. We can be friends with Ripple. We can show up to their Swell conference, and everybody in the room is trying to figure out how they can benefit and use the XRP ledger in their business. But when it comes to the XRP ledger and what do we need, in my opinion, we need liquidity pools, DeFi protocols, etc., that programmability. And I think that we need to leave the monetization of that DeFi, those protocols and those liquidity pools at that level. Meaning what I'd like to see is similar to what we saw with First Ledger. First Ledger created the meme coin launchpad and the platform for trading the XRP memes. Now, they didn't change the XRP ledger. They built a user interface, basically a website and an app on top of the existing XRP ledger DEX. And they just tap right into it. But then what they did is they added a 1% transaction fee when you used First Ledger. Now, this is open source permissionless. You could go to the XRP ledger on a different user interface and not pay that 1% to First Ledger. You could go to XMagnetic, XP Mark, you could go to other platforms, which I sometimes do. And you could trade all of these XRP meme coins without paying the 1% transaction fee. But people use that platform, happily paid that fee, including myself at times, because it was so efficient. They had the Telegram bot. They made it really easy. They've now created another wallet, the Joey wallet, that is super easy to onboard. And at that level, these builders, these companies can then tack on their fee, whether that be a transaction fee or however they're going to monetize their platform. They could do a subscription. But I think that the best model for us in the XRP ledger is to continue adding the functionality to the XRP ledger at the native layer 1 level without smart contracts, but then adding the ability for these builders and platforms to be able to monetize at that level. That way we keep the XRP ledger efficient, but we allow our builders to get paid for the products that they're building. And I talked about this last week. The advantage of the XRP ledger is that it is so cheap. So our builders can tack on a fee of, say, 1% to transactions on their platform, and the transaction cost is still so cheap because the XRP ledger fee is 12 drops. It's a fraction of 1 penny. And then they can tack on a 1% transaction fee or whatever it's going to be, and you're still happy to pay it because it's not that much, right? These other platforms are charging much more in transaction fees and spreads and all of that. And so that is what I think is the right model for the XRP ledger. But I'm Joe Blow, not a developer, just an XRP bag holder and believer. So my opinion is just that. But I do believe that we'll watch this conversation take place, and it's really encouraging to see that Ripple is spearheading and investing in Evernorth, the digital asset treasury company, that's not only going to be hoarding a bunch of XRP, but they're actually looking to deploy it into DeFi, incentivize our builders, incentivize DeFi platforms, and really help build out the ecosystem. So a lot is taking place right now, whether it be, getting into the technical part of the XRP ledger, whether it be Wall Street, whether it be regulations, it's all coming together perfectly right now. And at the end of the day, the XRP ledger remains one of the best sources of liquidity in the world. Now, let's continue on here. This is from Hunter Horsley. As I said, it doesn't matter what retail thinks, doesn't matter if you're having a good day or a bad day, whether your girlfriend or wife is upset with you. Wall Street and the institutions are here. They're coming in whether you like it or not. Another 8 million into the Bitwise Solana ETF yesterday. Cash in, Solana purchased. Now over 580 million inflows since launch, with inflows every day the last 3 weeks. Prices are in the eye of the beholder. ETF investors continue to buy the dip. Grateful for the trust in Bitwise to steward investor assets. By the way, I did notice that Hunter Horsley, the CEO of Bitwise, he did like my tweet on my updated XRP ETF timeline. So when I saw that, I said, okay, the CEO of Bitwise, he likes this timeline. That's good. Good to know that we're over the target. But the point being, and the reason why I share this with you guys is to note, despite Solana's price going down, and this is where I don't even own Solana, but I still do think that it will recover with strength on Solana, is because over the course of 3 weeks, you had nothing but inflows into Solana. Now, at the same time, we saw the second highest daily outflow out of the Bitcoin ETFs. People are selling Bitcoin, moving to Solana. People are selling Bitcoin, moving to XRP. And the more products that become available, the more access, the more competition, and the greater the service is going to be. But this is happening right now. Once again, whether the weather's good today, whether you're in a good mood today, whether you like XRP or not, whether you like crypto or not, whether you like me or not. I know people like to take their anger out on me. That's fine. All I ask is that you smack it and that you drop a comment down below. Okay? That's the tax that we like to hit you with for complaining. Okay? Smack it. Leave a good comment for us. Okay? Maybe something that can inspire a good conversation. It would be nice. But the point being is that they've had nothing but inflows for 3 weeks. This is now going to take place with XRP as well too. Not only did we set the day one volume record with Canary Capital's XRP ETF surpassing this Bitwise Solana ETF, but the inflows have been tremendous. This is just getting started. Now, my attention has shifted here, and what I'm watching is the whale movements on the XRP ledger. That's what I love about this technology, is that we get to track it. Right? Most of the stock market is now traded in dark pools, OTC. We don't get to track it until the end of the quarter when these firms have to give us their update on their holdings. At the end of the quarter, then we get updated. With blockchain technology and with the XRP ledger right now, we get to watch this in real time. In 3 to 5 seconds, that transaction settled up, posted publicly to the blockchain, and because so many people have their alerts set, whether it be this platform Whale Alert or others, just random people that are watching big whale movements, we got eyes on this. And so now I'm watching to see, like I said at the beginning of this episode, will Ripple allow a supply shock to happen? To me, the answer has to be yes. The Ripple has the biggest incentive to see XRP go up in price. So then if the question is not if it is going to happen, it now becomes a question of when is it going to happen? And even if it doesn't happen this year, I still believe that eventually it will. And so now we're watching and tracking and tracing these wallet movements to see where they go. 200 million XRP transferred from Ripple to unknown wallet. And this is from Whale Alert. And you go right here. And what I have been doing here, what I did on this one today, is I go to the sender's wallet. I went to the receiver's wallet. And I'll just show you guys real quick so you can see, for example, see how this is Ripple 1 right here. Make sure you guys can see that. This wallet is Ripple One. So this is Ripple One, and it actually sent this 200 million XRP to a wallet called Ripple 50. So it was an internal transfer from a Ripple wallet to another Ripple wallet. But then from there, I was tracking some of the movements out of the Ripple 50 wallet. And I shared my findings in my Discord group. It was very interesting. And I've now created a couple bookmark tabs on my browser here so that I can start to save. And we're going to collect this evidence and track and trace and see where it goes. Because the big question is, where is the XRP going to come from for these ETFs? How much XRP is available on the public retail exchanges? How much XRP is on the OTC trading desks? And then how much XRP will Ripple allow to leave the escrow, leave their wallets, and go out to the OTC desks and eventually the ETFs? But the beauty of this is we get to track and trace it all on chain, right? And so we're going to continue to watch that. And this is the number one question that we have, right? Is where is the XRP going to come from for these ETFs? If Ripple decides to give us a supply shock, they can. Like, the environment is there. The demand is there. If Ripple wants to give us a supply shock this year or in 2026, they can. If they want to hold off and wait, well, then we would see Ripple distribute, XRP out of their wallets into the OTC desks, and then the ETFs would be able to acquire that XRP. And eventually, right, we could get that supply shock down the road, but it might not be right away, right? In the meantime, I still believe that we do see price action on XRP just from the pure speculation of people wanting to get exposure to this asset because they think it's going to go up in price, right? Making a bet that there's a chance or a possibility of a supply shock on XRP. And that can be a different number for each investor. The bottom line is they're buying XRP. Right. You have some folks that think a supply shock and a high price for XRP is going to be 10 or 20 bucks. You have some people that are investing in XRP for 1,000. But at the end of the day, we're both making a bet on the same thing, on the same outcome of some sort of supply shock that drives up significant price appreciation for XRP. Whether that is 10 to 20 bucks, there's a group in the crowd here that thinks it'll only go to 10 to 20 bucks. There's a group in the crowd here that thinks it's going to 1,000 bucks. And then there's a range of timelines. But at the end of the day, what brings us together? We all hold XRP and we're all asking ourselves, do we have enough XRP? Now, continuing on the ETFs, I wanted to show you guys, because I thought that this was a fascinating data point right here. If you look on Friday, August 22nd, 2025, a total of 6 asset management firms updated their spot XRP ETF filings with the SEC. Like I shared with you guys right here, going through the ETF filings and everything, I feel like I have deja vu going through my red folder and all the Ripple case documents, SEC versus Ripple. It's the same thing. And what I learned from 4 years of the Ripple lawsuit is actually print out and read these documents, or save some trees and don't print it out, but just read it online, right? But actually reading and going through the filings, the evidence, the exhibits that are submitted, not just throwing it into AI and letting AI come up with a conclusion, but actually diving into it. And this is simple. This is just a mandate from the court clerk signing off on August 22nd that both parties had dropped their appeals. The parties in the above referenced case have filed a stipulation withdrawing this appeal pursuant to FRAP 42. The stipulation is hereby so ordered. Clerk signs off on it. Mandate issued August 22nd, 2025. That's when we knew that the case was officially over. Some people still think that the case is ongoing and that we need a final sign off from the Judge Torres. Not true. Ripple already put the funds into the escrow. That's managed by the escrow custodian and party, the manager of the escrow, where whatever the fine was. What was the fine? I forget what it was. 100 million, whatever it was. That's already released. That's already done as soon as the court clerk files this mandate and notes that both parties have withdrawn their appeal. Appeals are withdrawn. That means you go back to the summary judgment where Judge Torres ruled, XRP was not a security. And issued the fine. That was the judgment. So if the appeals are withdrawn, you go back to that point, which was the end of the case. And yet there's still people running around that think that Judge Torres needs a final sign off, that the case is still going on. No, it's over. It is completely over. And the reason why I'm bringing this up tonight, 4 months later, right, or 3 months later, is to note, as I titled it, XRP Wall Street Unleashed, Wall Street wasn't going to move on this until the case was over. We were hoping that they would. We were hoping that they would move before the case was over. We were hoping that they would adopt this technology at scale before regulations were passed. Didn't happen. The good news is that the case is over. The better news is that the Clarity Act is about to pass, whether it be by the end of this year or not. It is happening. And so on the same day that we get the mandate from the judge and the court clerk files it, officially noting that the case is over, just so happens to be a coincidence that 6 of the ETF issuers update that exact day. Fast forward here to November 18th, 2025, as we record this update today. And these ETFs are starting to go live. So once again, Canary Capital, first 33 Act spot XRP ETF went live Thursday, November 13th. Now, did I throw my documents away? No, I have my documents right here. We knew it was going to go live because we saw that they made this filing on October 24th, 2025, last month. 20 days from October 24th is the 13th of November. So we knew it was going to go live. Now we're watching, and we saw Bitwise updated theirs October 31st. 20 days after that is November 20th. This Thursday. 2 days. Now, like I said, the Bitwise CEO, he liked my tweet. Okay, so that to me pretty much confirmed that at least Bitwise, it's on. And what we need to watch for tomorrow is the 8A filing from Bitwise, and then the exchange that it's going to be listed on, which I believe is the New York Stock Exchange, is where Bitwise will be listed at as well. The exchange puts out the notice, the public notice, hey, this ticker will be live tomorrow. So the day before the Canary ETF went live, the New York Stock Exchange put out the notice, hey, XRPC live tomorrow. That's the process of these ETFs going live. Well, today, unexpectedly, Franklin Templeton's XRP ETF, they file an 8A. Now, 8A is the last step. Your S1 is like your first form acknowledging what it is, what the ticker is going to be, all the details. The 8A filing is the last step. You only file your 8A after you've gotten acceptance and clearance from the exchange to list your ETF. Now, we just dealt with this whole mess of people thinking in Grok and Google and AI, crypto tabloids, influencers, everybody was misreporting that the Franklin Templeton ETF, the spot XRP ETF, was going to go live today. I was standing amongst myself, and I had all these people coming out of the woodworks. You're betting your whole reputation on this. This is crazy. You're so wrong. Did anybody trade the Franklin Templeton XRP ETF today? The ticker XRPZ, which is the correct ticker, not the one that people are throwing around online. Nobody traded the Franklin Templeton XRP ETF today. And so I took a lot of crap, but I was the only one that pulled the filing. Grok is citing crypto tabloids. Google Gemini is citing crypto tabloids and fake news influencers. And that is your problem. The AI is only going to be as good as the prompt and as good as the person prompting the AI, right? And so when AI, you need to look at the sources when they're citing the crypto tabloids fake news who don't know how to read filings at all. All they know how to do is put out clickbait headlines. This is where fake information comes about. And I'll make a point because I think this is interesting. If I still wore my tinfoil hat, I would almost think that somebody had a motive to make and cause so much confusion about the XRP ETFs going live for some sort of ulterior motive, because it's like so much misinformation came out. But the reason why I stood amongst myself or by myself and said that it wasn't going to go live is because I just went to the S1 filing, which was updated on November 4th. 20 days from November 4th is 11/24. And so I wake up today, we see that it didn't go live. I say, okay, good, we're right. It's not like I'm not trying to run around and say, I told you so. I just want good information to be put out so that our community has right expectations, good information, and the rest of the crypto space or outside investors don't look at us like we don't know what we're talking about. I don't want our community to have that opinion of us. And I think that the XRP community does, right? Because you have people saying crazy things out there on a daily basis. There's all sorts of XRP influencers and content coming out and all sorts of wild claims. And so, like I said at the beginning, a quick disclaimer, I can't sign off or endorse on any other influencer in this space. I love a lot of these guys. I'm not a fan of some of these guys too, right? But at the end of the day, if they're putting out good information, all good. The problem is the bad information. And so all this to say, it really caught me off guard when Franklin Templeton did file their 8A today. And I said, now we wait for the New York Stock Exchange to share the notice that it is going live. And I double checked as I was getting ready for tonight's live show to make sure that the New York Stock Exchange didn't post the notice, hey, Franklin Templeton XRP ETF going live tomorrow. Because that's all that's left to happen is the stock exchange where it will be listed, puts out the public notice, it goes live the next day. I haven't seen it. If anybody else has seen it, let me know. And I'm not talking about Grok told you, Google told you that the Franklin Templeton ETF's live today. It's not. You would have been able to see it, and it's not. There's a crypto index ETF from Franklin Templeton, Easy Peasy is how I remember the ticker. It's Easy Peasy is the ticker name, and it's a crypto index ETF that's listed on the Chicago Options Exchange, right? And so that one's live, and I think that did cause some confusion. But I pulled the Franklin Templeton, and the ticker is XRPZ. It's going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and they just submitted that 8A today. And I don't know if they're just like they submitted it because they got approval from the exchange, or they approved it because maybe they know that the SEC is about to sign off on a few of these. That's the only thing that would really blow up the timeline that we have right now. The timeline that we have right now is Bitwise XRP ETF goes live Thursday, November 20th. Grayscale is ready to go live November 23rd, but that's a Sunday. The stock exchange won't open till Monday. And so Grayscale could go live along with Franklin Templeton on November 24th. 21 Shares, CoinShares, and WisdomTree haven't even updated their filings yet to start the 20-day countdown, which is another way you know how far off Grok and other AI platforms are, is there and other influencers that are sharing graphics with the dates for 21 Shares, CoinShares, and WisdomTree, when if you actually go read the filings, they haven't even updated it properly to start the 20-day countdown. And I wanted to make a quick note on this too, by the way. The reason why I'm hounding on this is because I want to move the needle. I mean, and it sounds crazy to think that some Joe Blow YouTuber could be the one to point out to a Wall Street firm, hey guys, your 20-day countdown has not started. You are being left behind by Canary, even Rex Osprey, which filed the 40 Act one in September. Canary's already live. Bitwise is going live. Grayscale and Franklin Templeton are going live. And are you guys just sitting there twiddling your thumbs? And I ask our community here tonight, what are you doing? People say in the meme coin space, in the trenches, what are you doing to work your bags or pump your bags, right? And not that I want to pump our bags, but what are you doing? What are we doing to move the needle forward, to bring more awareness to XRP, to spread the word far and wide, get hundreds of thousands and millions of impressions on a tweet saying, hey, Wall Street bros and gals, What the heck are you doing? And why have you not fired your lawyer yet? Or whoever. And this is the crazy thing, is 21 shares updated on November 7th, just, 10 days ago, but didn't remove the delay clause. So they actually updated their ETF filing, but didn't start the 20-day countdown. It's like, somebody needs to get fired for that, probably. I mean, unless you want to leave money on the table. But if you know anything about Wall Street, it is the exact opposite. These guys are willing to go to incredible lengths to make as much money as possible. But all of this to say, folks, that we're here. Is it going to go live this day, that day? Over the course of the next month, we will have probably 7 spot ETFs live, not including all of these leveraged and options XRP ETFs as well. This is getting really exciting. So what we're looking at right here, Franklin's 8A has now been filed. They're ready to go live. Okay. We'll be watching closely. And by the way, here is the SEC database just to confirm, right? See, here's the S1 filing on 11/4, and here's the 8A filing today, 11/18. So they're jumping the gun. I don't know what they're doing, but we'll be watching it closely. Now, in my second video today, I broke down in depth the Amplify. This is the Amplify XRP 3% monthly premium income ETF. It's kind of a word, a mouthful, but they're targeting 36% annualized option premium income. A lot of people are not understanding that this actually will lead to buy pressure and demand for XRP. It's just going to happen indirectly. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Take a look at this. So this is the fund holdings as of November 18th, 2025 for the Amplify Income ETF. So 24%, the largest percent of their holding is actually in the Canary XRP ETF. The remaining portion of their portfolio is in the volatility shares, call and put options. And that's the strategy that this fund is deploying. Basically, they hold a portion of XRP spot, but they do it through the Canary ETF. And they could potentially own the Franklin, the Grayscale, or the Bitwise ETFs as well, too, right? So a portion of this fund is just going to hold XRP spot, but they'll do it through an ETF. And when Amplify buys shares of Canary, Canary then has to go get more XRP to back those shares. So this is why I'm saying that even though this is an options ETF that will never hold XRP like in their own wallet, they now hold spot holdings through an ETF, in this case Canary. And then they're going to generate the income. How do they make the 3% per month and the 36% per year? They're putting call and put options on the XRP ETF from volatility shares, which is a 2x XRP ETF. So that's a leveraged long ETF, but they're putting calls, which is basically a bet that something's going to go up in price. And then they're putting puts, which is what you do when you think something's going to go down in price. It's the same as going long or short. Call, put. I know not everybody knows the traditional finance terminologies for going long or short like that, right? If you haven't traded options, you might not know that. So I'm just breaking that down so everybody understands. So what they're doing is they're trading these options on a weekly basis to try to generate returns. Go long XRP, go short XRP using the volatility 2x ETF. Go long, go short. And then hold XRP spot through the Canary ETF. And every time they're buying shares of the Canary ETF, Canary has to go out and buy more XRP to make sure that their ETF is backed and all the shares are backed for their ETF as well. In conclusion, if you can't tell by now, as I've been saying, these guys are going to be selling it with slideshow presentations. They're going to wrap it up in 1,000 different products. 2x long, 3x long, 5x long, crypto index basket, go short. There's going to be so many products that Wall Street is going to package up these cryptos in. And I think that XRP is going to have the most demand out of all of these altcoins, right? And this is just getting started. Our ETFs are just now going live. We have this pullback taking place. And I've just been trying to bring the point home for everybody, whether you're new here or you're old here, to understand that this pullback was to be expected, and that the pullback after the ETF Go Live launch takes place was the best buying opportunity for Bitcoin. It was not the best buying opportunity for Ethereum. Ethereum did actually go lower during April 2025 when the tariffs went live. And Ethereum has been lagging. Ethereum only went up about 130% from its ETF pullback low to its high. Bitcoin went up 226%. And those data points are what I used for my video this morning to explain the title XRP Price Appreciation Incoming. As I've said, I back up every single title with real analysis and data. And that's what we did this morning. I'm not just saying price appreciation is incoming because I want clicks, because I want to deliver hopium, because I want to tell you what you want to hear. I am trying to tell folks what they need to hear, which is that there is still a tremendous opportunity on XRP. Many people will be left behind because they don't understand this asset. There's a new stat, and I'm going to make a point on this stat real quick before I open up the chat for Q&A. 41% of XRP holders are at a loss. If that is you, this is being circulated by Cointelegraph and the source is CoinGlass. CoinGlass is citing that. If you look, this is going to historically be one of the best buying opportunities on XRP. So if you are at a loss, what I would be doing is whatever I could possibly do to get more XRP or these other utility assets, why they are at these bottom of the barrel basement prices, this floor price that we're setting after the ETF sell the news event, because history tells us that significant price appreciation is right around the corner. We know that the institutions are ready to go. They're just waiting for the Clarity Act. We know that the inflows are coming. The ETFs are just now starting. And so don't over leverage yourself. I would never do that, even though I've done it before. Back when I was still getting started in my crypto journey, been there, done that. And I know what it's like to spend your last dollar, to spend money you don't have on crypto. I know what that's like. And at this point in the game, I like to have a little bit of cash so I have protection and liquidity. And then that gives me flexibility and options. When it comes to defense, we have our precious metals. We have precious metals linked up at zachrector.com. Or if you want to get precious metals in your IRA, we have iTrust Capital linked up down below. Go check them out. When it comes to offense, I'm 90% XRP with my crypto portfolio. Not saying that's right for you. I'm just saying where I'm positioned. And the reason being is because I feel so safe in this asset with the floor price that we've established, the growing community, and that's retail community growth, waiting for institutions to come in at scale. And so not only am I not leaving, I'm still looking to add to my XRP exposure. I'm just doing it through my XRP long in the futures trading, right? I have 100% of my XRP in cold storage or in institutional grade custody with Caleb and Brown. I have more XRP on Caleb and Brown now than I do any other platform. So really appreciate that they have us in free institutional grade custody. If for whatever reason I want to pull that XRP off their platform, it's not going to cost me a dime. Next year, I'm going to set up on iTrust Capital with a Roth IRA. And I'm going to have our lawyers over at KKOS Lawyers set me up a Roth IRA, a mega backdoor Roth. This year, Mark Kohler told us that you could invest $69,000 in that mega Roth to get the ball rolling. And so that's what I'm going to look to do next year with iTrust Capital. I keep big bags of XRP, and we're looking to, cash out some of that XRP, keep that on Caleb and Brown. And then I use Coinbase to trade, random cryptos, smaller positions, and then futures primarily. That's my trifecta. Coinbase for futures, Caleb and Brown for big positions and institutional grade custody, I Trust Capital for retirement accounts. That's who I'm using. If you don't like Coinbase and want to use a different exchange, whatever. You don't like Caleb and Brown or I Trust Capital, okay, that's fine. I'm just explaining how I'm positioned to continue acquiring these utility assets to keep them safe. And we have all of the providers that are exploring ways for us to generate yield. And so we'll be able to put our XRP to work in centralized platforms, even if that means they're selling it in a slideshow presentation wearing a suit, or the DeFi platforms that are giving us access to DeFi liquidity pools, etc. And even like David and the Ripple team is talking about right now, even the potential to stake our XRP down the road. So this allows us to be our own bank, go to service providers that are going to treat us really well when we need to conduct business. And I just encourage you guys to make sure that you're covered on all these platforms, whether you're just getting started in your journey, you need to have good partners, or whether you're a seasoned veteran looking to make some big moves, make sure that you understand the services, products, and offerings, the fees that these platforms are going to be charging you. We are in an extended cycle for cryptocurrencies like XRP and a few others. And this is why my portfolio is so consolidated. In XRP, my next positions are XLM, HBAR, XDC. For crying out loud, I have some XRP meme coins that actually are like 0.5% of my portfolio. I hate to admit that, but it is true. And actually, I don't hate to admit it because I've made a lot of money on the XRP memes. And so this, at this point, is what we're doing to make sure that we are ready for the significant price appreciation that's right around the corner. We lay out all the options in front of us. We're connected with all of our service providers, good relationships with our professionals, with our bankers, get into a strong community with like-minded individuals in the right mindset, because there's all sorts of negativity going on out there. I tune it all out completely. Like completely. When it comes to negativity, the only negativity that I'm seeing is directly from the data. And it's ugly. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. The economic situation, not just in the United States, but across the world, is ugly. But am I going to sit around and mope? Am I going to sit around and cry about XRP? No, not for 1 second. Because I had the privilege of going to Ripple Swell Conference and being in the room with the bankers and institutions who are getting ready to adopt this technology at scale. And there's no way that I'm going to miss the party. I literally went to the party, the Ripple Swellabration. Me and Sal from Two Cream catching up and walking over to the Swellabration. We walk in, and first thing that happens is we had a guy walk up, a server there, walks up with some tequila drinks. Here I am, having a tequila drink with Sal. What an honor. What a privilege to be in the room with these guys, and not just Sal, but all of the folks that we talked through at Ripple Swell. It's all the same thing. How are they going to integrate the XRP ledger into their business, right? This is the right place to be, without a doubt. And so at this point, I want to open it up for rapid fire Q&A. I appreciate everybody for stopping by here tonight. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like the stream, help us out by sharing it out far and wide. And let's spend some time going through rapid fire Q&A. Thank you so much for your support. Okay. So we have, who is this? Eric. Eric, thank you very much. Zach, the aliens are coming for our XRP, but not until it's $10. Zach, the aliens are coming for XRP, but not till it's $10. For those guys who don't know, we said a long time ago, the drinking game on our show is anytime we mention the word aliens, you're supposed to take a drink of your adult beverage. So we did give a couple mentions there. So there you go. Let's open up the chat. How's everybody doing? Mrs. Claus, good to see you. Christmas is coming, but I do think we might be going to about $1.60 for a hot second before we go high. Holding out for a nice bag to buy. Always love your lies. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Claus. It was so great to connect with you. I know we had a good one-on-one conversation the other day. Really love connecting with you guys, getting to sit down with you guys one-on-one and talk about what you guys are up to and the moves that you're making. You know, I love having conversations with folks that get it, that just fundamentally get it and are here with conviction. It's good to see. And by the way, let me just say this. I'm having conversations with people on a daily basis that are looking to roll over significant portions of their 401k and retirement accounts to crypto that haven't been able to until now. And whether they're buying the ETF, whether they're rolling over their 401k or IRA over to iTrust Capital, or whether they're cashing out their 401k completely and just buying XRP themselves. I'm having conversations with people on a daily basis that are looking to deploy. Not, hey, I'm looking to go buy my first couple $100 of XRP. Hey, I have $2,000 to invest in XRP. Hey, my retirement account's $2 million. What's the best way for me to make an allocation into XRP? These are the conversations I'm having. Hey, my retirement account's $4 million, and I'm looking to invest 50% of it into XRP. How do I do so? These are the conversations I'm having on a daily basis. And I don't think that people understand it because you don't get to see it. You know, I have the privilege to get to meet with so many of you guys, and we have these conversations, and it's just one person after another who's telling me, yeah, I got 6 figures to invest in XRP today. What's the most efficient way to do that? Hey, my financial advisor doesn't like my idea of moving 50% of my, multi-million-dollar retirement account to crypto, but I'm going to. And I have a good chuckle. I have a good laugh. I love you guys because I've had so many conversations with folks. Oh yeah, I cashed out the entire thing and went into XRP. Not saying to do that. I don't give financial advice. I just enjoy. Do I think that the stock market will start going up, or will we be in a bear market? Logan, that's a good question. Most of the stock market hasn't even reached new all-time highs since 2021. Most of the stock market gains have been concentrated in the top 10 stocks, the Magnificent Seven. The S&P 500 is so overweighted to those stocks that the S&P 500 has carried gains just based off of those stocks alone. The Russell 2000 has lagged, obviously bad and poor performance over there. There's no breadth in our stock market. So, the question is the Magnificent Seven going to go down, right? The broader stock market, other than that, has barely moved in the past few years, right? So are we going to go up or are we going to go down? I think that we've slid down for about 4 days in our stock market is what I saw today. I don't watch the stock market as closely, but I do think that there's definitely no reason to have exposure into some of those that are so overextended when we know we're buying assets below their fundamental value over here. And that's the problem, is that TradFi doesn't know how to do proper analysis on cryptocurrencies. They don't understand the tech. They're so focused on market cap. They have no idea how to value cryptocurrencies. And so they can't sit here and say with conviction that XRP is fundamentally undervalued. We can. Based off of data, math, adoption, everything. We can say firmly that it's undervalued. And we can confidently say that the stocks are overvalued. And it's funny because you'll talk to the same person from TradFi who says and agrees with you that the Magnificent Seven or the broader stock market is overvalued, but they're still scared to go into crypto because they don't know how to value it. They don't know how to conduct analysis on networks and protocols. This technology is something that they're still trying to wrap their heads around. And they are so focused on market cap in the TradFi world that they can't fathom XRP going to even $10, $20, right? And reaching a market cap of $1 trillion, let alone going to $100 and being at a market cap of $6 trillion. That's why I say it's the $10 trillion question. Will Ripple allow a supply shock to happen? If they do, that's where we go. $50 to $100 XRP. If is no longer the question. It's just a matter of when. And like I said, I was wrong thinking that it was going to happen in 2020. Maybe some of you guys are in that camp too. I was wrong thinking that it was going to happen from 2020 up until now. We still have not broken up above $5 even, right? And so it's okay to admit that we've been wrong. It's okay to admit that the timeline has been off. But are the targets off? Are the targets still in place? And has the timeline just simply been extended? If that's the case, and the fundamentals have only gotten stronger, well, then the question just is, do you have enough exposure? So, Christy, I love you. Thank you. Thanks to Zach for always bringing the energy. It's like therapy for me, and you guys bring the fun. I love it. Here wanting quality. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much. Now, let's move down here. Versatile, but we don't want Clarity Act to pass because XRP already has it, right? I would say we do want it to pass because at this point, it's only us that care that XRP doesn't, or that XRP does have clarity. That's the problem. Like, these institutions just aren't going to move until they have clarity. And so we're not going to see institutional utility in adoption at scale until we get clarity. Right? I was listening to Jake explain on the Good Evening Crypto show tonight how if for his domino theory to play out, we need the reverse carry trade to unwind, to blow up, and we need it to happen before the Clarity Act gets passed, because then XRP would be the only asset that could be used as a solution to solve all of the unrealized losses, the liquidity that would be needed to bootstrap the market back up again. And so for the domino theory to play out and for XRP to go to 3-4 digits, he was explaining that it had to happen before the Clarity Act. The problem with that is that when we were at Swell, these institutions were very clear that they're not going to move until they have that clarity, until they have the rules of the road. So I don't think it's possible for XRP to be used in that role to be the back end of the stock market until we have clarity, right? Because it's not just XRP is not a security, great, but there's more regulations that are needed. There's more rules of the road that are needed for these institutions to use it. Like, just because they know it's not a security doesn't mean that they still need, don't need regulations. And so that's the problem that I see with, it's a good question. Let's go back to it. The Clarity Act, I think, is what we need for these institutions to adopt XRP and all of the rest of crypto too. Right? I mean, we have to understand, guys, that we live over here in crypto world, in the XRP echo chamber. And so we all know that XRP is not a security, but believe it or not, there's still people in the crypto space that think that XRP is still a security. Let alone the institutions, yes, they could recognize, okay, XRP is not a security, it's not in a lawsuit, we can launch an ETF, but if we don't have regulations for, how we can custody, how we can use these assets, they're not going to move. So that's one part there that I find I don't see playing out as demonstrated and laid out with Jake and his domino theory. As he was explaining, I was listening to the Good Evening Crypto show, getting ready for tonight's show, and a huge shout out to those guys. Like I said, I love that we have back to back. This is what I love, the XRP family, and big respect to them. We have so much content coming out, and shout out to everyone that's putting out the good content. I really do appreciate that. And it allows for basically nonstop coverage, 24/7, 365 of good XRP content in a completely decentralized way too. It's really beautiful. But yeah, I was listening because Johnny was asking Jake to explain how this could happen. And that's just the one thing that I don't think can happen is them using XRP to settle up the back end of the stock market without clarity. I think that they need it, which is frustrating. Don't get me wrong. It's very frustrating. Christy, thank you for the 50 spot. Really do appreciate that. Thank you. David Schwartz said escrow can be pre-sold with futures, meaning that's likely a done deal. XRP should rip higher. Yeah, and I'll just say this, guys. I talked with a guy, veteran at Ripple, that's been there for over a decade. And he's just one guy, part of a big company and corporation. But I found it was quite pleasant to hear his thoughts on what he thought Ripple should do with the escrow. Because mind you, we're up here at this rooftop bar having, and I remember asking him what he was drinking, and he said Jameson. He just had a nice little Jameson. And I asked this guy one question after another, and he was so gracious with his time and so great answering all these questions. And I asked him about the escrow, and he said that he thinks that Ripple should hold on to more of the escrow, that there's different things that they can do. He said that his role at Ripple has been onboarding institutions to the XRP ledger for the past decade. Imagine the places he's been and the conversations that he's had. For the last decade, he's been onboarding institutions to the XRP ledger. That's his role. And so he said, it's not really his domain, but he is of the opinion, and he's shared it with the company, why he thinks that they should hold on to more of the escrow, that they should not. Because one of the things I asked him about was, in the Clarity Act, there's talk of, for a blockchain to be mature, no one company can hold more than 20% of the supply. And so he answered that by saying that we'll have to see how the legislation passes, but that he thinks that Ripple should hold on to much more than 20% of the supply. We didn't really get into all the different reasons for why he thought so, other than he just kind of generally, said in general that he thinks that there's a lot that Ripple could do with that XRP to incentivize various DeFi, liquidity pools, etc., make investments within the XRP Ledger ecosystem. And he said that you better believe that the team at Ripple knows how they are impacting XRP price down to the BIP, is what he said, down to the basis point. He said that Ripple knows exactly how they are going to impact the price of XRP. And that's the big thing. And he noted this as well too, is that they have a way now to sell XRP without impacting the price negatively, which is selling OTC. They can do that legally. There's no problem with that. Judge Torres said that's fine. And so that's really good for us who want to see this asset distributed and used as a world reserve currency. If you want it to be used as a world reserve currency, you want to see distribution. You need more people holding it, more people using it. And so it's going to be very interesting to watch, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, where does the XRP come from for the ETFs? Where's the XRP going to come from for the digital asset treasury companies? We know that there's only so much XRP on the exchanges. We know there's only so much XRP in the OTC desks. And even in Ripple's escrow, there's only so much XRP. And just like Dennis pointed out there, pre-allocations, we know that they've been done in the past. And, we'll see how it goes going forward. One point of clarity, some people are reporting that Vivo Power, which is one digital asset treasury company, is buying XRP at an 84% discount. What people need to understand, though, is that they're talking about buying shares of Ripple equity. They're not buying XRP from Ripple at 84% below $2.20, whatever that price is. They're not buying XRP. They're buying Ripple equity. And so that's a very important point of clarity, because I see that circulating. And like I said earlier, with the crypto tabloids and the fake news, they pick this up, and that's a great FUD point. And you'll see the FUDsters spin that one up. Oh, see, we told you, XRP idiots, that Ripple was dumping on your head. They're selling to this company for an 84% discount. No, they're not. That company is buying Ripple equity, which is grossly undervalued, as I've been saying for quite some time on this show, that the net asset value of Ripple's holdings is over $100 billion. And Ripple just raised $500 million at a $40 billion valuation. I'm not a math whiz, but 2 + 2 still equals 4. 40 billion XRP times $2.20 equals, close to 100 billion. So it's still grossly undervalued, but quick point of clarity, because I do see some of that FUD circulating. Vivo Power is not buying at an 84% discount. And what we're going to be watching going forward is Ripple going to adjust how much XRP is coming out of the escrow and they actually sell off? Are they going to tighten that up? The $10 trillion question is not if, but when will Ripple allow a supply shock to take place for XRP? When? By the way, I wanted to make a comment about this too. The 41% people that are at a loss right now, this is why there's not going to be that many people that make it to the dance. There's not going to be that many people that make it to even a $10 XRP, let alone $1,000 XRP. Like, look, forget about $1,000 XRP for now. We can talk about that later. People aren't even going to see appreciation on XRP to $10 because of what's happening right now. I mean, and I also wanted to say this too, because when I saw that stat, I was thinking through this. If you're part of the 41% of people that are holding XRP at a loss, you should not be commenting anything negative on my posts about how you feel about XRP, about XRP's price performance, because you're not in a position to speak on it. Now, I want to be like, no, I'm not trying to come off as like arrogant and, we got in early and you didn't. It's from the standpoint of you've only been here for 2 months, 6 months, less than a year. And you're trying to tell us that XRP's no good. Do you see where that's wrong? It's time to humble ourselves, come learn, come sit down, and then focus most of your time on figuring out how to generate some extra funds and cash to lower your dollar cost average down. Just like I've done from 340 down to 228. My XRP long is at a loss right now, barely, but it would be at a much bigger loss had I not dollar cost average down, which is what some people are doing because they bought in at $3. Now they're not buying at $2. They didn't put their orders in at $2.10 yesterday and clear those orders because they think it's going to $1.50. They think it's going to $1. They think it's going back down to 50 cents. And this is why I say retail, a lot of retail is not going to make it to the dance. And I'm not talking about $1,000 XRP. I'm talking about $10 XRP. They're going to sell off. Respectfully, if you're part of the 41% of people that are holding XRP at a loss, you are not in a position to say anything negative about XRP price or fundamentals on my channel or really any other channel for that matter. That'd be like me entering into a stock, being in a stock for 2 months that's already gone up significantly and given a bunch of gains to many people in the community. And I come in and I'm 2 months into an asset that's maybe down a little bit. And I want to cry to everybody else in the community and tell them that this asset sucks. No, you're late. You don't understand the fundamentals. You don't understand why it went from 20 cents to $2. And if you leave now, you're not going to understand why it's going from $2 to $20 to then eventually 3 digits and beyond. And I hope that new people come in and take the time to subscribe to my channel, subscribe to some of the other good XRP content creators out here and learn. That's why we do what we do. I'm not trying to like be an a-hole at the new people. I'm trying to educate them. So I show up. The only reason I can show up every single day with a smile on my face is because of the fundamentals being so strong on this asset and the upside appreciation that we have sitting in front of us. And respectfully, sometimes you have to call that out. Right? So, these people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that the investment that they made into XRP is going to be fine, that they don't need to dollar cost average in because XRP is going to go to $1,000. So instead of dollar cost averaging in right now, they're just going to hold the investment that they have. And if it doesn't go to $1,000 this year, they give up on XRP. This is why the rich get richer. CJ, thank you. The backdoor Roth, are you starting that in stocks, then transferring over, or starting in crypto? You mentioned starting it, then transferring it to iTrust. Yes. So the law firm that we use for legal and estate planning, setting up corporations, LLC, I had them do my trust. That's KKOS Lawyers, and I have them linked up down below in the description or at my website on the Community Resources tab. Just go to Legal and Estate Planning. You can set up a free 15-minute consult with them. One of the services that they provide is creating the Roth IRA for you. A self-directed, if you're self-employed, they have a couple different structures that they can put you in. But I'm going to have them do that. I'm going to pay KKOS Lawyers to set up my Roth IRA, and then I will deploy that over at iTrust Capital. Yeah. Yep. That's a great question. And like I said, I don't plug them enough. They're actually having a free webinar tomorrow, hosted by KKOS Lawyers. That's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. A free webinar on 2025 end-of-year tax strategies, things that you can do before the end of the year to mitigate your taxes. And one of the things that I did see they posted about was crypto. So I don't think that the entire thing's going to be about crypto, but I do think that they will mention that. And most importantly, how to mitigate your tax burden for this year. So that's a free webinar that they're putting on. And I shared that with my Discord group. So if you're looking for the link for that, just hop on into our Discord. You sign up through Patreon to get into Discord, and we'll share the link with you for that. That's a free webinar. And also, if you join our Discord group, I can share with you the link of the private call that we had with Mark Kohler back in August. And it was an hour, 20-minute call, jam-packed with value on his structures, on crypto, on estate planning. It was a really good conversation. And I'm going to be having Mark back on the show here soon. He was having his tax summit this week, I believe. Or was that last week? I think that was last week. Yeah. Time's flying so quick. So last week he was busy doing his tax summit. And so now we're going to get him on the schedule here sometime this month to get Mark Kohler on the show again. But I should plug them more. Great resource. That's KKOS Lawyers, the legal and estate planning link down below. 15-minute free consult. They'll direct you in the right direction. And the reason why I love working with them is they're not overselling our community on products and services that you don't need. They're not overcharging. There's not overselling. And they have a network of accountants as well that you can tap into as well. So highly encourage you reach out to them for all of your legal and estate planning. And then if you want to get a new accountant, they have a good list and network across the country. This is something I'm doing myself right now is I'm vetting new accountants to start working with myself. So it's really cool. If you go to their network, you can pick by state, and you can also filter it out by what type of services you're looking to have. If you want like a virtual CFO, if you want accountant, if you want a just tax prep, tax advice, if you're a small business, they have people that specialize in all of those things. They're then also well-versed in KKOS's structures for how they set up people's business entities, investment entities, and then their estate planning as well too. Highly recommend. So, Fei Long, do you think that right now at the 220 level is around the bottom and a good time to add more XRP? I'm hearing some people say that it might still go down to 204 or even $1.60 before it goes higher. What I'm watching right now for a potential bottoming structure is I'm looking at what catalyst could drive this market down lower. There's not enough leverage in the system going long for the market makers to make more money bringing the market down than they would make sending the market higher. There's a lot of shorts in the market right now. So from a market maker standpoint, they would make more money by liquidating all the shorts and sending XRP up to 240 and 260. What else could send the market down? The big one that I'm watching right now is the Bitcoin situation. And I don't want to get into the details on that because I don't want to get in trouble, but you guys know what I'm talking about. My mentor, Dan Pena, the crazy old man, I love the guy, said that if we knew who the creator of Bitcoin was, that we couldn't run to sell it fast enough and that it would go to zero in an instant. And he says that he knows who created it. 100%. The crazy old man was the only human I know on this planet that predicted negative oil during 2020. He's also the only person that I know that predicted cruise ships would be sold for scrap metal during that same time. The crazy old man is tapped in with the Vatican. He's tapped in with the military-industrial complex. He's tapped in with the top brass at Wall Street. He was scheduled to meet with Barron Trump to help with the Trump transition team right before President Trump had the situation in Butler. And the meeting never ended up happening. But this is a man who's literally connected with the very top. You can't go any higher in the pyramid than where he's connected. Stubborn old man. So you got to put up with that, stubborn old man. But the fact that he said it with such certainty has always stuck with me. And now you're starting to see where'd some of that money come from to fund Bitcoin Core? Who was interested in creating Bitcoin? Why were they creating Bitcoin? What was Bitcoin used for? Now, the dollar has been used for a lot of bad stuff too. So I am not one that's going to pin it all on Bitcoin and say that Bitcoin's the worst thing ever. No, I don't say that. I am just watching and observing, and I'm looking for that to potentially be a catalyst that drives our market down. If some files do end up getting released, which the House did vote today to release the files. There's a few stipulations in there about redacting some information. So how heavily redacted are the files going to be? We'll see. I'm not holding my breath, but that is the trajectory that we're on. And I worry that that could be a black swan, or maybe not so much of a black swan, but that could be a catalyst to drive us down and mark the bottom of our current range that we're trading in. Now, we went down to $2.07 on the first day of swell. That got bought up really quick. And then we went down to $2.10 yesterday. So that would be a higher low. And that would tell me that we do have good support right now above $2.10. We do still have a couple order blocks, smaller order blocks that are sitting, right above $2. I know we have a level of fib support at $1.90, I believe. But we're watching Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now went down to 88,000. Let me pull up our charts. We haven't even looked at the charts here tonight other than the first part of the show. Bitcoin at 91,000, and it went down to 89,300 yesterday. So Bitcoin, I was watching for it to fill the CME gap. We noted that over the weekend, talked about it in our Discord weekly call. The CME gap was right here. And so we did end up filling that. Zoom in on the chart for you guys there a little bit so you can see that. CME gap was back here at 91,600. We went all the way down here to 89,400 on the CME. So we filled that pretty nicely. So there's a level of support sitting at about 88,000 to 90,000 on Bitcoin. We need to hold this. In my opinion, if that wasn't the bottom, we're very close to the bottom. To answer your question there, let me pull up the super chat from Fei Long. Are we close to the bottom? Yes. We might have already hit it. We're back up to 220. Like I said, I had my order sitting at 208. I still have that order sitting at 208. It might not get filled, but that's fine. because my XRP long position is already pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And I still have plenty of margin there, so I won't get liquidated if we go down to $1.90 or $2. Not going to get liquidated, going to add to my position, and I don't see us making a deep pullback below $2. We need the world to end for us to go below $2 on XRP, and even breaking below 88,000 on Bitcoin. Now, what's been interesting, though, to note is how well XRP has held up while Bitcoin's been bleeding out. In my opinion, the rotation has already started from Bitcoin ETF seeing the second biggest outflow in history to 3 weeks straight of Solana inflows. What do we have? We had 2 days last week, and we've had 2 days, so 4 days so far of the Canary Capital XRP ETF trading. Nothing but inflows happening over there as well too. So it's nothing but inflows now into altcoins. We just need Bitcoin to hold up, carry its own weight and not get exposed, whatever it does expose Bitcoin. We just need it to hold up because the broader market does not like seeing Bitcoin go down. And we're watching Bitcoin dominance has started to roll over as well too. Let me go to the Bitcoin dominance chart and let's get an updated look at that. Yeah, we're at 589. How about that? We're at 589 on the Bitcoin dominance chart. And so, on November 4th, we ran back up to about 61%. On October 10th liquidation event, we ran up to 63%. But those were quick wicks that didn't last long, and now we're starting to roll back over. And so we're looking for Bitcoin dominance to roll back to about the 50% level, 54% to 54 to 50% level would be where XRP and our altcoins would be taking off. The last time that Bitcoin dominance was back here at 54% was in December, after XRP did that massive pump through November 2024 into December. Bitcoin dominance bottoming out at 54%. So we're well on our way there. Watching to see that play out. Going to be perfect for XRP and the other altcoins that are going to get inflows from ETFs. Okay. Let me slide on over here. We got another super chat that came in from Mrs. Claus. She says, I'm sorry, I was just guessing the lower number, but I'm all for XRP. I'm all in. I know it's going to the moon. I just think Bitcoin is going to mess with us. That's all. No, exactly. Don't be sorry, Mrs. Claus. Don't be sorry at all. Because I'm right there with you. Like, if Bitcoin gets exposed, and sure, yeah, we could definitely go. And the thing is it's not going to last long, guys. So I don't care what platform you use, whether you use my community resources linked up down below, or whether you're using other platforms. All I will say is that if you use Caleb and Brown, you're going to a brokerage that gets you access to multiple order books. So you'll have a better chance of your order going through than you would on a centralized order book like Coinbase or just these centralized exchanges that only have one order book. When you go to Caleb and Brown, they're sourcing liquidity from multiple centralized exchanges, OTC desks, even the DEX if they have to. And so give yourself as best of an opportunity as possible to scoop up that dip. And I'm very proud of our community because I was talking with Jim from Caleb and Brown, and he gave me really good feedback. I asked, for the month of October, I said, was our community buying the dip or what? And he said, oh, yes. Oh, yes. We said a record month of new signups and people that joined Caleb and Brown, but then also the amount of money that we brought to the platform. And he said that people were buying the dip like crazy. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, is giving yourself options. And so, like I said, for me, the trifecta is I trade futures on Coinbase. Many of you guys aren't going to trade futures at all, so forget about that. But, you can use a centralized exchange for smaller transactions or little trades, trading cryptos that might not be listed on Caleb and Brown. But when it comes to trading bigger bags, and when it comes to having XRP parked in institutional grade custody, Caleb and Brown. And then for my retirement accounts that I'm going to open up next year, I'm going to open up one for myself, look to open up one for my wife, and then even for our kids too. We'll get that started, and then we can park that over at I Trust Capital. That's my trifecta, not including my cold storage. So it's really a 4-pronged approach, but trifecta sounds better. XRP and cold storage, trade futures on Coinbase, big bags on Caleb and Brown, I Trust Capital for retirement account. Okay. Reading comments right now. Thank you everybody for stopping by here tonight. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like the video. Really do appreciate that. Make sure you have subscribed and hit the notification bell. XRP's at 217 right now. Let me get my other XRP chart. Yeah, so what I've noticed too, the only analysis that people have that we're going lower is how bad everything is in the rest of the world, how bad things are for Bitcoin, and some of the technical analysis. And I won't argue with any of those points, but I laugh at the people that are still using XRP FUD talking points from 2018 through 2020. You can see how desperate people are to want to project their own insecurities and negativity onto XRP because they didn't get into this thing. They're upset that we're outperforming their crap coins. They're upset that they have no exposure to XRP but a bag full of crap. And they're upset because their girlfriend's upset with them today. And so, I'm bringing this up to say that I don't see any real analysis that shows that XRP is going into a prolonged bear market. Even when you look at Blockchain Backer, he's showing an analysis and a potential for us to, be going through a consolidation period and a correction. But on the other side of that, you would still see significant price appreciation on XRP within the next 12 months. You're like, this is not the end. And I just read somebody's comment that, this guy will still be preaching $5 XRP in 5 years. No, we won't. We will absolutely be at a much higher price. 100%. Now, a lot of people still want to bring up that we were wrong on our price predictions for August and September and October, and here we are in November. That's fine. I've admitted that those were wrong, that those were off, right? But consider that, we weren't really off by that much. When you look at XRP going up to $3.66, you're less than $1.50 away from a $5 XRP. You're less than, what would that be, 80% away from reaching that level. I mean, you're just not far off. Now, if I was saying that XRP was going to $100 or $1,000, then I could see why people would be upset with me because we're off by a lot. Look at this chart, guys. At $3.66, you're only 36% away from a $5 XRP. Okay, so we said $5 to $7, right? We drew a purple box. You're less than 93% away from a $7 XRP. So, were we wrong? Yes. Were we off by hundreds of dollars or thousands and thousands of percent? No. And at the end of the day, right, we acknowledge that things have been delayed. We were supposed to get our ETFs back earlier this year in August, right? We had 6 ETFs that were updated back in August. The SEC, should have been moving towards this. The SEC versus Ripple case should not have dragged out till August 22nd when we got the mandate in the official filing that the case was over. The case drama was still going through till August 22nd. The ETFs that were supposed to go live this summer didn't go live till last month. The Clarity Act that was supposed to pass earlier this year still is not passed and might not be done till the end of the year. So what somebody does who shares their commentary and their analysis, the right thing to do is to come out and say, I was wrong. I was wrong by this much. And now that we're into November, we can say that we've been off by a few months. Off by a few months, off by 30%. Guilty. If you want to hate me for that, I would encourage you not to. It's not going to help you in any sort of way. I would suggest that we then get caught up to speed on the current timeline and targets, which I still think are very reasonable. As I put out in the video this morning, we will see 100 to 300% price appreciation on XRP with ease in very short order. After the first Bitcoin ETF went live, it took 13 days for Bitcoin to bottom out. We're only 5 days. It's been 5 days since the first spot XRP ETF went live. And we've already gone down 18%. So that tells me, and that makes a lot of sense, by the way, that XRP sell the news event would be less than Bitcoin. And it would recover faster and have more appreciation than Bitcoin because we've already been outperforming Bitcoin this cycle. Bitcoin only went up, what was it, 90% since the election? I forget the number. And XRP swung 600%. We have been destroying Bitcoin this cycle. So it should be no surprise that we had less of a sell the news pullback and that we're going to have more price appreciation on our ETF pump that takes place over the next year. And I did see some people were confused in thinking that now I'm saying we won't see a $10 XRP for another year. What I said this morning, and I've been saying lately, is that I still think we have a sell wall before $10. So I think that we fall short of $10 on this initial run up, but I think that that is coming before the end of this year or in January, first part of this year. And that's simply just the dynamic of our ETFs just now going live. I had predictions at the start of this year for $20 to $30 XRP this year. That was where we were at the start of this year. And all throughout this year, I've lowered my targets and we've had to adjust the timeline. Does that make me a bad person? No. It's just the double-edged sword being a commentator and an analyst in these markets, right? Is you're not going to get all of your calls right. But I like to remind folks, we didn't lose money. That's important to understand, is that we actually made money. Dollar cost averaging from 340 back down to 228, making money on other trades in the meantime. Back in April into May, our community made millions together on Zebek. We made a bunch of money on Stronghold. Made a bunch of money. I doubled up 100% profit on DAI. I made thousands and thousands and a lot of XRP off of trading XRP memes. We've made money on our XRP longs. So we've been making money in our trades in crypto, in XRP, despite XRP going down, despite a prediction being wrong. We've still been making money. And that's because we're not over leveraged. We're not betting the farm that XRP is going to $1,000 this year. We're making a bet that XRP is going to, appreciate, fall just short of $10 before the end of this year. And that after we get that sell wall cleared, we are on our way to the $20 to $30 targets that I've had for over a year now. But I think it would be foolish of me to say that we still go to $20 to $30 this year, because we just don't have enough time, and we're not going to be able to get enough inflows fast enough. It's the same reason why I said that we weren't going to go to $1,000 or $100 this year, is because we weren't going to get enough inflows. Fast forward here to November 18, 2025, and I'm telling you that we're not going to get enough inflows to see this play out, where we clear out the sell wall between $5 and $10, and then we can move on to double digits. This is not popular, but I believe it's important to share this analysis, and a lot of people find value in this analysis, even though it's not as fun to hear as other people that are claiming that it's going to go to $10,000 on this ISO date, right? The other beautiful thing is that if I'm wrong to the upside and we see XRP does go to some of these targets, ain't nobody going to be complaining. We will be having a lot of fun. We'll be deciding, are we getting together on your yacht, at this person's house? Where's the XRP party going to be at if I'm wrong? So we're hedged. I see we got one more super chat, and then we're going to sign off for the night. Thank you, Gabe, for coming in. Might be a dumb question, but I noticed the XRPC ETF was going for 24 US dollars. Just shows we're due for a big pump. Well, Gabe, yeah. So it's important to note that there's about 10 XRP backing each share of that ETF. So that's why it's at about $24 right now. Right? XRP is at $2.17 right now. Earlier today it was up at $2.24. And so you have a little bit more than 10 XRP backing each share, which is why that ETF is trading at about $24 per share. I bought it at $27 per share the day that it went live. So I'm down a little bit on that, but I only bought 3 shares just to have as a collectible. That's how I view that. It's like an NFT. It's a collectible. I have a few of the Canary ETFs for the heck of it. A little memorabilia. Exactly, Larry. I want to end on this point. The real XRP army are in it for the long game. It is what it is. It just takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. You do a great job, Zach. Thank you. And that's it. That's it. Once again, the targets remain. It's not a matter of if Ripple is going to allow a supply shock. It's just a matter of when. And just because it's not on our timeline doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean that we should give up. It just means that we have to adjust our expectations. And at the end of the day, we ask ourselves the question, do we have enough exposure to the asset? Do we have the professionals around us? Do we have the entities and estate plan in place? And do we have the platforms that are going to help us execute on these plans? That's all we have to worry about. Right? Once you get over the line of understanding that, yes, XRP is on its way to some of these fun prices, it's just a matter of not being on the timeline we wished for, but we're still going to come. I mean, it's like telling my kids that we're not going to be the first stop on Santa's list. Is Santa still coming? Yes. But we're going to be at the end of the night. Okay? We're not on the first part of Santa's list. That's all this is. Okay? So with that being said, if you guys appreciate what we're doing, please help us out by making sure that you have liked this video, help us out by sharing our content out far and wide. I have a good video lined up that I'm going to record for tomorrow as well too, so we'll have more content coming tomorrow. If you missed the 2 updates that we dropped this morning too, I thought that they were valuable pieces of content, especially the second video that I dropped breaking down the Amplify 3% monthly premium income XRP ETF. I think that I got that wording right. It's a long name for that ETF, but we broke it down and explained how it's going to work and how it ultimately is, indirectly going to add buy pressure to XRP, which is what we want to see. And it brings more exposure to XRP, which is what we're here for and what we're rooting for and what we're watching and observing take place in real time. So go check out some of those videos. We'll be back tomorrow with another update. All of the rest of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Quick note, if you are looking to get your XRP family merch in by Christmas, do not wait. Get your orders in now. We're trying to tell folks to get your orders in by December 5th if you are in the States, and get it in by December 1st if you are overseas. If you are in Canada, get your order in ASAP, because I don't know what's going on with the Canadian Postal Service, but it's a disaster, okay? I could probably drive it faster to most of you Canadians in the chat from my house to your place. I would probably be better off just driving it there than sending it through the Canadian Postal Service. So if you're looking to buy some of our XRP family merch that we have at the website, get your orders in ASAP if you're in Canada, by December 1st if you're overseas in Europe, Australia, etc. And if you're in the States, get your order in by December 5th. And just before I got on our live here tonight, I actually had my merch guys send me some of the new designs that we're working on as well. So stay tuned for those to drop in the coming days. I'll let you guys know. Okay? If you're looking to join our Discord private community, you sign up through Patreon to get access to Discord. Everything else is at my website, zachrector.com. I hope that you guys enjoyed the presentation tonight, and we will be back tomorrow for more. Okay? God bless you all. Have a great one. Thank you so much.